Hey, what's up? This is DJ Thunderous. I'm here with Kevin Estrella from Pyramids on Mars. How you been, Kevin, since we haven't spoke since 2015?
Oh, I've been super busy. I mean, it's been there's so much that's happened in the last, was it 3 or 4 years since the last time we chatted. I've been writing music and discovering more about myself and diving deep into the rabbit hole of Alice in Wonderland of what Pyramids on Mars is and rediscovering myself. So I've completely revamped myself since Echo Cosmic. It's been an amazing ride.
That's cool. So can you give everyone a history of Pyramids on Mars, and where the name or the name came from?
Yeah. Sure, absolutely, yeah. Well, Pyramids on Mars. I'm Kevin Estrella of the instrumental rock band Pyramids on Mars. I call myself the Joe Satriani from the mystical Red Planet. So my music is very similar in style to Joe Satriani. However, he's more of a blues-based rock guitar player, and I'm kind of more from the school of Yngwie Malmsteen. So I have a real classical influence to my style, my classical and metal, so to speak. So when I created Pyramids on Mars, I had a certain kind of sound that I was developing. So I was really attracted to the style of Yngwie Malmsteen and what he was doing melodically on the guitar. But I didn't want to become another Malmsteen clone. So what I did was I realized, okay, I got to go back to studying his influences. And so that's when I discovered Bach and Vivaldi. And then my life just changed after that. It was like hearing music for the first time. And then I started learning more about Baroque classical compositions and more of the theory that wise, and then and just melodic lines of violins. I was more attracted to what the violins were doing, and I really got turned off from listening to guitar players. And I still don't listen to guitar players really much anymore. I'd rather listen to a violin concerto because I get more melodic ideas from what I get from out of classical music. Not just Bach and Vivaldi, but also lately last year I really got into Mozart. That's been a huge turnaround for me too. So and Paganini, of course, who's kind of basically the world's first shredder. Niccolo Paganini, this amazing virtuoso violinist who. Malmsteen's a huge influence of. So that's the kind of stuff that I was getting, really digging my teeth into. The concept of Pyramids on Mars was a concept to marriage my love of instrumental rock with my passion and purpose here on Earth of helping awaken people to the extraterrestrial presence and helping people to transition into the new reality that we're coming into. When official first contact does take place. So that's been my purpose, is to marriage the two. And it's been an incredible ride, and it keeps getting more and more complex and more depth as I am learning more from myself. Because as people not may know, but I have extraterrestrial contact on a regular basis. So. And that's been documented. I've been a guest on over 50 UFO radio shows.
That's really cool. So, I saw that.
Yeah. I've also been written about in Grant Cameron. He's a world famous UFO researcher. I'm written about in his book, Tuned In, The Paranormal World of Music. So I'm in that book. I'm also in another book by Stu Walker called Inviting ET, where a lot of my ET experiences are documented in that book too.
So besides your Star Trek and Space 1999 influences, what attracted you to space in the first place?
Oh, boy. Well, that's kind of funny because, as I started to realize more about, my mission and purpose here on life, it kind of comes back to you start to reverse engineer your life to a young age. And at a very young age, I was watching these space programs, and I felt more like that was home. That's where I came from the stars. So it was very natural for me to, when I'm watching these programs, there was some deeper part of me at from a reincarnation, so to speak, that this is familiar to me. This is familiar territory. So that's why I gravitated to space in the beginning. It was a sense of that's where I came from, and it wouldn't be until I was in my 30s or 40s when that would become affirmed and realize, oh my God, it's true. And that's why when I look back.
So when I look back, I know you had told us in the last interview about one of your sites that you saw. I believe it was in your backyard. Was it?
Yes. Yes.
I recall that, and I found that very interesting. I guess it stuck in my brain. I'm like, that's real cool because we watch sci-fi and we watch things like that, and it is very interesting, and I believe it's true.
Well, when it happened for me, I wanted to have see a UFO all my life. And then when it actually happened, I wasn't ready for it. It completely shocked me. It defied physics in ways I had never seen before. And your mind is trying to put it into a block of your own understanding of physics, but nothing worked. It just didn't work. This basically the show long and short of it was August 21st, 2014. I go onto my deck, it's 10:30 at night, and then within 7 seconds, this big craft comes out from behind the tree of my neighbor's yard, and it was a huge disc. It was and it was only 100 yards away from me. I probably could have threw a rock at it from where I was, and it was orange and red, and it was glowing, and it was moving like the speed of a helicopter, just slowly moving across the distance of my backyard. It had plasma stream that was streaming off the top of it and the bottom of it, almost like smoke. But it was the crazy thing about this object was that it was two-dimensional. It had height and it had width, but it had no depth. It just looked like a hole in the sky, like a solar eclipse. And then it moved across the distance of my backyard only, and then it turned and started moving south towards Binbrook, and then it kind of started to open up this swirling vortex in the front of it, and then it just disappeared.
Wow, did you just freeze right in your spot right there? I would have been frozen.
I was frozen. I did not even blink. I stared at it going, what is that? What the F is that?
Oh, yeah. I would have said, what the fuck is that?
What the fuck is that? I'm like, oh my God. And then by the time it left, then all of a sudden, I realized what I had just witnessed. And I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. But it was so close. And but the thing was, what I found out, over the almost 9 months later, all these crazy synchronicities would take place, that I realized that I was the only person in Hamilton who saw the craft, who reported the craft, who had contact with the craft. Which didn't make any sense because it was 10:30 at night and it flew over the top of the mountain only a couple hundred feet off the ground. The thing was 50 feet wide. Everybody, there should have been massively reported by hundreds or not thousands of people. Nobody else saw it. And then I found out when I met with Grant Cameron, and he explained to me that in his research, this is a common occurrence where a craft will have contact with one person and nobody else around it has any contact or sees it. It's because they're having direct contact with that individual.
Wow.
And so this is actually proven because I did a radio show shortly afterwards. These guys are from Hamilton. They did a whole research on the night of August 21st to see who else reported this thing or any anomalies that were reported. Nothing came up. Zip. So much that their producer called me the next day and said, due to the lack of evidence of your sighting, we're dropping your case. Don't ever call us again.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you got some slack from then, I guess.
Yeah, but I knew what I saw, and MUFON, the New Shield UFO Network, actually did a whole presentation at the Alien Cosmic Expo that following year on my sighting because it was the most authentic documented case they'd come across. So, what gives? So Grant said, Kevin, you did see it. It happened. They weren't going for a beer run. They were coming to see you. So that was my awakening call. And then everything else after that, This was crazy. Synchronicities, ET visits, everything.
Wow. And so you kind of bring that into your music then as well.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's all in there.
That's cool.
It's all in there.
Amazing. Now what?
But it's at a much deeper level, and we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah. So when you're writing an album, how many typical tracks do you use for your album, or do you throw aside, or, do you keep?
Yeah, so it's usually, like, I always release 10 songs on an album, and I end up writing about maybe 12 to 13 songs, and then I'll choose the best ones for that album that should go on there. I would say it's probably, about the same I did for Echo Cosmic, for Edge of the Black, but the songs had to fit the theme of the album, so that's why all the songs that went on that album were purposeful, because it's kind of a concept album in a sense.
Cool.
So, yeah. That's
real cool. And you have 2 current releases, right? You have the one that's going to be released and the one Cosmic, forgot what.
Echo Cosmic.
Echo Cosmic. Yeah. Do you have any other releases or singles that are out there besides the 2?
Yeah, I do. I have a debut album, this self-titled Pyramids on Mars, that was released in 2013. So that all, this is my 3rd album, actually. So all my albums are available on Bandcamp. Check out my website, pyramidsonmars.com. Takes you a straight link to the Bandcamp, and there's some major bundle discounts for my whole discography, actually.
Awesome. Now, your new release is Edge of the Black. We've been speaking about everything that, influences you, and where did you get the name of the album from?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm going to be completely honest. And first of all, just so people understand, I'm not some crackhead, who claims he's seen a UFO and, and blah, blah, blah. I actually have been a guest on over 50 UFO radio talk shows. 50. I've been interviewed 50 times. I've been written about with my ET and music, how they're combined, in the book Tuned In: The Paranormal World of Music, written by world famous UFO researcher Grant Cameron. He's won several awards as Researcher of the Year, and he's documented this stuff because I'm not the only person who's had these consistencies with musicians who've been contacted by extraterrestrials. Multitudes of them have been. We're talking over 100 musicians, well known that you all know, have had ET contact. So he wrote a book about it, the whole thing, and some of my personal stories are in there. But anyway, I made friends with a group of extraterrestrials who are actually using Twitter. If you go to @SandiaWisdom, they are the Ponte. They are Zetas. People may recognize them. If you think of your typical extraterrestrial with small gray, big heads, black eyes, that's them. Okay, they're called the Ponte, and they're from the planet Pontel, which is the 5th planet orbiting Zeta Reticuli 2. However, they have an underground base in the Sandia Mountains of Albuquerque, New Mexico. This base has been there for 10,000 years, and they are there, and they're even here preparing us for official first contact in 2021. Anyway, I became very close with them and their telepath Sue Walker, who does the translations for them on Twitter. But I've been visited by them in my apartment multiple times. But I've also been taught by them, and it was 2 of my teachers were Teeny and Thera, and they're 2 female Ponte, and they were teaching me about the Edge of the Black. So this kind of goes back to, first of all, 3 years ago when I got a message from Teeny, and she said, "Kevin, you do understand that music can be communicated at a telepathic level, do you?" And I'm like, "No, I had no idea."
Wow.
I said, "Yes." She said, "Yes, music can be communicated at a telepathic level and writing on an emotional wavelength. And you can also incorporate images and pictures into your music, like a 3 to 4 dimensional music video, through telepathy." And I said, "Well, can you teach me this?" And she said, "Yes." So for the last 2.5 years, they've been teaching me how to play my guitar at a telepathic level. I've received downloads from them, so I'll wake up one morning and my head will be all cloggy and stuff, and it takes me a couple of days to recover, and I have to go into like reboot naps. And I finally got a pattern that they were actually picking me up from my apartment, taking me wherever, and then downloading information into me, just like you're in the Matrix.
Wow.
And the Matrix. Yeah. Like Neo wakes up one day, I know Kung Fu. Where do you think they got that from? That's not science fiction. That's real. The Ponte can do that kind of shit.
Holy
I swear
crap.
to God.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the downloads are documented. Everybody knows they're well known about extraterrestrials can download information into you. So that's what they were doing, downloading me with stuff and teaching me this, how to play my music at a telepathic level. And then Teeny's telling me about the edge of the black. And she's saying, Kevin, when you're writing your music, you're going to the edge of the black, which is the edge of the universe, where nothingness and everything exists simultaneously. Go to the edge of the black, sit on the edge of the black, turn around, and listen to the music that's coming to you from the collective consciousness, from all beings of all the galaxies. The music will come through the collective consciousness, through you. You amplify your emotional interpretation of the song that comes to you, and then you send it back out into the universe. She says, that's the edge of the black.
Now, what were you thinking when you were getting all this information? Was it mind-blowing for you? Or how were you reacting when you received all this information?
Well, what's funny was that Grant Cameron, when I met him a few years ago, the first presentation he was doing, he was already talking about this concept. But he didn't call it the edge of the black. He was referring it from his own research of music and downloads. So it was 2016 when I went to the Alien Cosmic Expo because I saw he was doing a presentation on, and this is what his presentation was, musicians and extraterrestrials and why extraterrestrials are contacting musicians to raise consciousness of the ET presence. So wow. I'm like, oh my God, this is all about me. I'm supposed to go and see this guy. And I go and see him, and then I find out MUFON's doing a presentation on my UFO sighting. Grant Cameron already knows what's going on with me. And then he does a presentation on how so many musicians seem to get songs that just come to them in dreams. They don't even write the music. It just comes to them. They don't know where the music is coming from. It's like a download. So Grant was already scientifically studying this phenomenon, and I realized that I was experiencing it already. Because when I wrote my first album, I didn't write that music. Music just seemed to write itself, and I was kind of like on autopilot, pushing it through.
Wow.
And then I realized that it was Teeny who explained what was going on. So, and she said it's called the edge of the black. Metallica, they call it the zone. Everybody has a different name for it, but they know what they're talking about.
Right.
When Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield talk about going to the zone, where they're just like into the music, and the music just writes itself, and he's coming up with all these cool riffs. It's so amazing to watch James Hetfield write. So this is science. This is not fiction. But Edge of the Black is how they explained it to me, and that became the album title.
That's awesome. So let's give everyone a taste of the Edge of Black. Here is Blood Moon. Crank it up. All right, everybody, that was just Blood Moon. Can you tell us where that track came from, please?
Iron Maiden. I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, huge. So, so I grew up listening to Iron Maiden and Rush. They were my two biggest influences, bands, when I was first really getting into music, when I was in high school. And so with Blood Moon, I already wrote a song on Echo Cosmic that was Iron Maiden influence, which was called Heaven's Gate. And that had a real Iron Maiden sound to it, and I really, really dug that song. It's got really cool guitar harmonies in it, a really freaking amazing guitar solo, and it's really beautiful harmony at the end there, which is typical of what Adrian Smith and Dave Murray would do. So I wanted to get back to my old roots of the Iron Maiden albums that really influenced me growing up, which were Somewhere in Time, actually, and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son.
Mm-hmm.
So the song Blood Moon is actually a combination of the song Moonchild from Seventh Son of a Seventh Son and the song Somewhere in Time.
That's amazing. That's cool. I'll have to listen to it again now that you told me that.
So if you take the introduction of Moonchild with that intro keyboard coming in, that's where I got the idea for the intro for Blood Moon. And then when the song kicks in, it's the same kind of galloping pattern that you hear in the song Somewhere in Time, off of the song Somewhere in Time. So I wanted to combine that. My purposeful goal was to marriage those two songs together and then make a new song out of it.
Well, it's very cool. We really like that song.
So there's a couple other things about this song that are very important I want to point out.
Oh, yeah.
If you listen to what the guitar is doing, those are all violin melodies that I'm playing. That stuff is all Vivaldi. It's all Vivaldi.
Wow.
So if you listen to what the guitar is doing, there's some ricochet effects going on, but it's the melodic. It's what the melodic melodies are doing that are very typical of what Vivaldi would do. And then when the chorus comes in, what's really cool about it, if you listen to it, is that there are two guitars playing different melodies simultaneously, which is I got the idea from Vivaldi's double violin concerto. So if you listen to it, you got one guitar is going this, and then you have the other guitar on top going so you have these two melodies playing over simultaneously. I haven't found any other bands who are doing that yet.
Oh,
so
it's well worth it.
Yeah, so that's what I did, and it sounds great. I love it.
That's cool. Now, what's it feel like being pyramids on Mars as the entity of itself, and what do you think it's like being compared to Joe Satriani?
Oh boy, I really love the concept of pyramids on Mars, and I kind of think of it the same way, as with Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails. I mean, sure, Trent Reznor could have just called himself Trent Reznor, because he was writing all the music. But no, he had this concept of the band Nine Inch Nails, and so Nine Inch Nails became, the band. And even though he was writing all the music, but I saw myself as kind of like in that kind of genre of, okay, yeah, I might be writing all the music. The Pyramids on Mars is the band. It's the concept. It's the whole thing. It's the visual. It's the power, the energy of the pyramids. It's the mystique. It's the mystery of space. All these pyramids that are on other planets. What else is out there? What's going on here? So that was the identification for me of Pyramids on Mars. I mean, even so much, I had to, it was in a legal battle with some other guy over the trademark name Pyramids on Mars, and I finally beat the guy in court, and now I'm just waiting for my trademark, so I'll have the trademark of that name.
Yeah, I kind of remember you mentioned something about that before, so that's quite a process, I believe.
Yeah.
Getting a trademark on
And
your
then-
name.
Yeah, it's important. I didn't, I didn't realize how important it was until I got to a certain level in my my success. That, oh, geez, I got to now protect the name because somebody's trying to shut me down. So I'm going
Right.
to shut me down first. So I did. I don't, I do what I do, and I find it flattering that I've been compared to Satriani. It was, I think it was. In one magazine, they referred to the Echo Cosmic as they called it like the finest thing from Satriani, surfing with the alien, that was really flattering. It's really flattering. And I cut my teeth learning from Satriani, and I just I wanted to do my own kind of music that's very similar in his style, but not imitate what Satriani is doing. I took the best of what he's doing to learn how to play melodically, how to play a melody that somebody can sing immediately, and that is a skill, that an art that takes years and years of studying and practicing. I actually bought books on how to write melody. I was that serious about it.
Wow.
How do you write a melody so somebody can somebody can sing it? What's the secret? What's the secret of that? And it takes years to learn how to be able to do that. It's not just something you just fly off the wall. So I really took it seriously to be able to do that, to develop that, and not be some kind of flashy guitar player who's playing a million riffs on the guitar. That's not what it's about. I want something that is memorable, that they can walk down the street and all of a sudden they're humming a melody and they don't know where it's coming from, and they realize, oh, that's Pyramids on Mars. It happened to my brother. My brother was like one day just walking down the street humming this melody. He didn't know where it came from, and he realized, oh wait, that's Mercury Magnetar. My brothers wrote that song. So that's cool when that happens.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool. And you do want to have your own sound, and you want people to listen and be like, oh wait, I know who this is when your tracks come on, So I know you're giving guitar lessons now, and you said it's such a long process to do that. Are you comfortable when doing the guitar lessons, or do you feel like you need to go further with it? And
I'm comfortable in the sense of how I'm putting them together. I come up with these lessons, and then I transcribe them, and then I go through the lesson, piece by piece. So I'll play it, I'll show what it looks like, what it sounds like, and then I'll talk about the concepts behind, the technique or what I'm doing or how it relates to the key. So that it's not just you're learning a riff, but you're actually learning what this arpeggio is or what it's doing or how it's related to the key that you're playing to make sense of it all. And to be able to take that as a piece for yourself, to be able to then, learn it and put it into your repertoire. So that's how I kind of work with my lessons. And I put together, I've only released 50 that are on Pivot Share, but there's still another 50 which are sitting on my laptop,
mm-hmm.
which will be there for later on. In addition to that, I've still am creating lessons, and I've probably created another 40 that are on my desktop right now of even cooler stuff that I've come up with. So it's endless in regards to these ideas that are coming, these melodic ideas to add, to be able to communicate a message, in your playing.
That's cool. And do you are you virtual with the students with your lessons, or is it just a virtual lesson?
It's just a virtual lesson that's set up.
Okay.
So it's all close-ups, and it goes through each thing very slowly, so you can see exactly all the fingerings that I'm doing, on my left hand, and talking about what this arpeggio is or what this is, and going through everything in detail, so that you can understand what it is that I'm playing, and then be able to play it back and play it yourself.
Well, that's really cool. We'll have to check it out. We're going to play another one of your tracks here, and then we'll discuss the story behind it. Let's crank up Knockwaffen. Oh, yeah, that was just knocked waffin. I know you had said there's quite a story about that track there.
There's a big story about that track, twofold actually. Where the name of that track came from, and then also what's actually happening in that song. So, I really love this song. It's kind of my tribute to Rammstein. So I love Rammstein, and I wanted to do a song that was in the style of Rammstein. So that's where Nachwaffen came from. And I'm really proud of this song. I really love how it came across, and it just kicks butt. But the name Nachwaffen, this is going to kind of blow your mind. So, you probably, as you know, I have my own UFO radio talk show. Or the audience probably doesn't know this, but I have my own UFO radio talk show. I was approached by the Artist First Network about 2 years ago. At first, I thought they just wanted to do a radio interview on me, and then Scott Zelenko was talking to me about how they used to have, like, cause they're a massive network. They've got like 24 shows on this place.
Oh, wow.
And they have over 65 million listeners in the last 48 months. They're huge. So they have 24 shows, and he said we used to have a show, UFO radio talk show, the Riley Martin Show. Do you know who Riley Martin? Does that sound familiar?
It kind of rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what happened was that Riley Martin started his radio show on Artist First, and then he got so big that he was bought out by Howard Stern, and he moved over to Howard Stern's radio network.
Oh, yeah, Sirius XM, right? Or Liquid Metal? Something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, so he moved off to there because he got so big. Scott turns to me and says, how would you like to replace Riley Martin?
Whoa.
I'm like, what? Really? So he says, yeah, we have this huge hole now with all these listeners who are listening to his radio show, and now we don't have a really good UFO radio show. How would you like to have your own radio show? I said, yeah.
I would have been like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, so I did. And so then I started my radio show, and I've been interviewing experiencers, people who have had contact with ET. I interview hybrids, because there's tons of hybrids on this planet who have more genetic ET material than a normal person. I've interviewed like a reptilian hybrid, Anunnaki hybrid, dual soul, who are half human, half Zeta in their soul. I've interviewed them. I've interviewed John Lear. He's known as the Godfather of Conspiracy. That show just exploded, and I was actually told that that was one of the top listened podcasts for the whole Artist First Network last year.
Wow.
Because we were talking about the great 9/11 conspiracy, holograms and direct energy weapons. So that really took off. So I had this Pyramids of Mars show going, and anyway, one of my guests who were on the show is Penny Bradley and a few other people who were part of the secret space program. Now, this is serious stuff, because I've got friends who were part of this secret space program. I'm not going to get into all of it, but what Nachwaffen is the German fleet that was created after the World War II fell, and they fled to Antarctica. And it's all documented. If you look up, Admiral Byrd and Project High Jump, where they sent 4 battalions of U.S. Navy Star Destroyers or destroyers down to Antarctica to take out this Nazi base they all fled to, and then they were attacked by all these German UFOs.
Oh, wow.
These Hanabus. They're called Hanabus. So the Germans had already reverse engineered and had UFOs. This is well documented, but this is the history they don't want you to know. And this is the stuff I was learning from my SSP friends. And so they end up getting more advanced, and they're in space, and their fleets are called Nachwaffen, which is Dark Fleet. So the song Dark Fleet Nachwaffen is dedicated to the secret space program friend.
That's really, really cool. And I'm excited that you're on a radio station too. I think that's pretty cool because you're a good talker.
No, thank you. Thank you.
No, you're very, you're friendly and you like people. And I think that's really cool for you.
Thank you.
I bet you learned a lot.
I learn all the time, and I continuously am learning. And my show is important for people to, who want to understand about, our extraterrestrial brothers who are very soon going to be, official. The first contact is going to be happening. They've been here all this time. There's a huge history of ET on this planet for not just, tens of thousands of years. We're talking millions of years. So there's a huge history to this planet that people need to be awakened to. It just floors me that so many people are so out of the know. And I'm just like, well, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
Because you have all this access to all this information on the internet. You can choose any time to educate yourself. But that's what my show is for, is to help educate people and prepare people for us to meet with our star brothers and star sisters again, because they're eagerly waiting for us to advance, and they want to help us. They're more spiritually evolved by millions of years. And this is where the song Nafwafen gets into.
That's very, very cool.
Half of what Nafwafen is about. The other portion of Nafwafen is what the Ponte taught me. So I talked about Teeny and Thera and teaching me about how to play my guitar at a telepathic level. Then 2.5 years ago, Thera, her specialty, and the reason why she's here on this planet is her expertise is in the tonal language of the cetaceans, the whales and the dolphins.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, the whales and dolphins speak a very complex telepathic tonal language, a language of tones. And she is an expert in this. So, and when the whales are talking, they're actually telling stories, and then they tell stories in three-dimensional pictures. And they communicate this way. They're one of the oldest, ancestors on the planet. And in fact, extraterrestrials from all over galaxies come to Earth, not to visit the humans, but to go visit the whales. That's how important they are. I couldn't believe this. And their songs are known throughout the galaxies. So I asked Thera, can you teach me this tonal language of the whales? She said, yes. So I'm like, holy shit.
Here we go again.
Here we go again.
Download.
And then back in April, I woke up one morning and my head was so cloudy and soggy cotton. It took me 3 days to recover from this particular download, and I had no idea what had happened. And so then I tweeted to them saying, what was that? And they said, well, you wanted to learn the tonal language, we gave you the beginner's course. And I'm like, oh my God. So they told me how to access this download, because it took a long time for me to process it to get back to, feeling normal again. And they told me they would, go down to the waterfront and do this, play your guitar while the sun is setting, and mix the elements of the water and the fire together and communicate and play telepathically. You'll start to download this and bring this tonal language out. So it took me about 9 months for something to happen. And this is what happened. I was working on the song Nafwafen, okay, trying to come up with the melody for the song, the main melody that you hear in that song. So I kept working with it, and I felt something was coming from deep inside myself that was outside of myself, that was coming from the collective consciousness. This melody was coming to me. And I kept working it and working it and working it. And then I recorded the demo. 20 minutes after I recorded that demo, Sue Walker, the telepath, she texted me and she says, T.D. and Sarah just contacted me. They wanted me to tell you that not only did they heard you playing your guitar telepathically thousands of miles away, but they said that you had accessed the tonal language.
Wow.
Download they gave you. They heard it through the collective. I'm like, what? They said, yeah, with the ripple effect and the timing and what you're playing there, you're playing a tonal language in that melody. So I was like completely freaked out. So I finished the song, right? I finished writing the song and mix it, master it, and then listening to it Christmas Eve. And this was the best Christmas present I ever got in my life. I'm listening to it, and then after the fourth listen, I got what they call a sudden knowing. It's one of the greatest telepathic messages you can get, where all of a sudden you have information that comes immediately that you didn't have before, but you know with 99% certainty that it's true. And all of a sudden I'm listening to that song, and I'm hearing that melody, da, 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 and I heard a translation. I was saying, "Do you hear me?"
Wow. Did you like go outside and yell it? I would have been running.
No.
I would have been just.
I know. I cried.
Did you?
I cried.
Wow.
I cried for half an hour. It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Well, it's very emotional for you, just even being there and having that experience.
I couldn't believe it. It was the most incredible thing. I stood up, I screamed, "Oh my God!" I'm saying, "Do you hear me?" In a total language. And I messaged them. I say, "Oh my God, there's a translation." And then Sue said she's hearing cheering coming from the mountain. She said, "You got it," and they're sending the messages back to the aquatic stations across the world.
Wow.
So I'm like, this is crazy. So it was true. It's like there's like tonal language in that song.
Wow.
Tonal language.
All right, let's crank it up. Here's the whale song. And that was the whale song. I know you said you had a story with that track as well.
I do. That song was actually channeled. That was another tonal language song that was given to me. Basically, I was channeling with some great whale, and that is what came through that song. It took a lot out of me to record that emotionally. It was very powerful, but I didn't know where it was coming from. But there was a message in that song. I knew there was a message in that song, but I didn't know what it was until about 2 months ago. And I was at the Psychic Sasquatch Conference in Chewelah, Washington, and I met with Clifford Mahooty, who is a Zuni tribe leader. You may have recognized him from Ancient Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
He's on Ancient Aliens quite a lot. He's very well known, very famous, and I'm friends with him. And his associate, Jamie, is a very strong telepath, and she listened to the song, and she actually got a translation from it. And so the song is actually talked about in a new documentary called The Ascension, which was just released a few weeks ago.
I think I heard of that.
And I'm in this documentary talking about the whale song, about this particular song. That's why I was in this documentary. And then Jamie goes on to talk about the translation that she got from this song. Because I didn't write this song. It was channeled. It was completely channeled. And I just kept hearing this howling, this ooh sound, you hear that song. And then Jamie expressed and explained what's going on in the song. Because if you listen to it, there's like the whole song has this drone sound to it, this low C, and then you hear the whale in the ocean, slopping, there as well. But that droning is basically, it's a calling out of the whale to everyone, across the world. It's basically a call out, and then when she is calling out, making that sound, that howling sound, what she's doing is she's imitating the calls of the wolves who are calling their children home. Wow. And this whole song is about it's time, we're tired, it's time for you to come home, it's time for you to awaken, come to me. It's a mother calling her children home. It's all about the ascension. It's about waking people up. That's what the song is about. It's about waking people up. They're tired. They want to go home. They want to go back to wherever their original star family, and they're trying to waken humanity up. That's what the song is about.
That's amazing. What a feeling you get now, knowing that's what that track is about. That's pretty cool.
I couldn't believe it, but it made sense. It's like, because I kept hearing that howling sound, and that's what I was trying to imitate, was his howl. And then Jamie says, "Yeah, it's a whale imitating the howl of a wolf." Like, that's incredible.
And he picked it right out of there. Yep, that's really cool. That's cool. Now the rest of the album, all the tracks that are on it, everything is themed, right, on the whole album?
Yes.
It's all the same concept. How long did it take for you to write the whole album, and, how stressful was it for you?
Let's see here, 15, 16, 17, 18. It took me about maybe 2 to 3 years to write the album. Yeah. It takes a while because I'm playing all the instruments. I play all the instruments on the album. I play all the guitars. I write all the drums. I perform the bass. I do all the keyboards. My own arranging, my own composing. I'm my own mixer, my own producer, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a long process to write a song. But I would say there's more time involved in the mixing. Mm-hmm. Some of most of these songs were remixed probably 1 to 2 dozen times, refining the mix until it was right. And that's where a lot of the time comes in.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, but actually, what's really cool about Edge of the Black is that this album is actually mixed and recorded specifically to be played on vinyl.
Nice. That would be interesting.
Yeah, because my dad got a new turntable about 2 years ago, and he had all his old jazz albums. They're like 50 years old that we were putting on, and we're listening to it on this new turntable. And these albums are so old, but when he played in the turntable, there's not one scratch. You can't hear it because it's such a good quality turntable. But that's the sound I heard was unlike anything I'd heard. It sounded like the band was in the other room. It was so clear, and just the way it was mixed with the kick, thumping through, and the bass was so warm sounding. Mm-hmm. It was something that I hadn't heard since I was a kid growing up. When my dad used to play, all these old jazz albums like Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, mm-hmm. and that's the kind of music I grew up on. That was in instrumental music, and I was listening to it, thinking, "Geez, now I hear where my influences are today, what I'm doing now, because of what I was listening to when I was 4 years old." But it was on vinyl, and it just had this warm sound to it. So I recorded this album, really thinking in mind to keep in mind what I heard on these vinyl records, and trying to keep true to the kind of vintage EQs that were used during those times.
That's cool. When are you planning on getting it printed on out? Not printed, but going on to vinyl? Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I plan on doing a run next year. Yeah,
awesome.
I definitely do.
Cool. Yeah, we'll pick one up definitely. Now I see you're endorsed by Neck Illusions. Can you explain to everyone what actually Neck Illusions is and how many personal designs you have?
Sure. Yeah. Neck Illusions. They have it's a removable custom graphics for the neck of your guitar. So it's really cool. It's like you could have almost any design on your guitar through these neck graphics that they have. It's not a sticker. It's a very sophisticated kind of decal that they'll stick to your fretboard. And the company's out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Mark and Jessica, and they got a lot of guitar players who use Neck Illusions, and they actually have them for keyboards too. They got a couple of professional keyboard players who are in Las Vegas who use their Neck Illusions stuff. But long and short of it, it's kind of funny how it happened. I had this dream where my Satriani guitar was being handed back to me by these three, Zeta extraterrestrials. And on the neck of my guitar had this DNA double helix design going up the neck.
Yep. And
I thought, geez, that looks really cool. That'd be really cool to have that on a guitar, but I have no idea how you can get an inlay like that into a guitar. It's a nice concept. It's too bad it can't be a reality. Wrong. 3 days after I had that dream, synchronicity-wise being, I'm followed by Neck Illusions on Twitter. And I'm looking at them like, what is this, Neck Illusions? And I see they've got this custom neck graphics and going, wait a second. And so I contacted Mark saying, hey, are you able to make a design that looks like this, this DNA neck thing, but it's got a green that looks more like Steve Vai's original Gem guitar? Mm-hmm. And he said, absolutely. And so then they created the first DNA double helix. They loved the design so much and loved my music so much, they gave me an endorsement, right there. So I was just like, wow, this is really cool. And then Jessica, she designed a couple other ones after it. One that's we call the Blue Lunar Eclipse, which I have on one of my guitars here. It looks really awesome. And then another one called Resonance Frequency, which I have on my Les Paul. It's in red and it's glowing. So they're really cool designs. And then it was about I think 2 years ago that Steve Vai joined Neck Illusions. So that was really cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and so then shortly after him, Jennifer Baden joined Neck Illusions. She was a guitar player for Michael Jackson all those years. So the company's been growing really big, and when you go to their signature artist's website there, and here's a picture of me next to Steve Vai. I'm thinking, whoa.
Who would have thought that would ever happen?
I never would have thought that would have happened.
Wow.
Yeah, so I thought that's really awesome. So Yeah, I love the neck illusions. They make my guitar really stand out. It feels so comfortable to play, and it just looks cool.
That's
You really
cool.
got to check them out, neckillusions.com. They're
So,
awesome.
are you endorsed by anyone else?
No, just
Okay.
them.
Cool. Hey, that's worth it. That's very cool. It's hard to get endorsed, actually.
It sure is.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
can you let everyone know your websites, where you can be found, if you have any shows coming up where they can catch you, or, you know?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, my website's very easy to find. It's pyramidsonmars.com. That's pyramidsonmars.com. And you'll find there links to all my CDs. The best places to get everything is actually on Bandcamp. You can get digital downloads from Bandcamp, or you can buy physical CDs off the Bandcamp website there. So go check that out. That's the best link to get. Or there's also links to Amazon and iTunes and all that kind of stuff too. There's also a link on my website to my guitar lessons. So check that out. And there's a lot of free lessons as well on that website. But if you want to subscribe, for $10.99 a month, you get full access to all the lessons and all the downloads of the lessons. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, it is. And also, could you let everyone know where they could check out your radio shows?
Oh yeah. There's a link on my website too for the Artist First Network, Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio. And I've done my 33rd show last week, and all podcasts are available for download or listening.
Awesome.
So go check those out.
That's cool.
It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind.
I'm sure. Now, your release is coming out when for Edge of Black?
Yes, on the winter solstice of December 21st, 2019.
Awesome. So good luck with that, and contact us anytime about an interview. We'll hook up with you. And if you have any new information, just let us know, and we'll get together. And if you could do a shout out for the radio station.
This is Kevin Estrella from Pyramids on Mars, and you are listening to the Thunderhead Show on MetalDevastationRadio.com, where metal reigns supreme.